All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the third meeting of the Panvala Awards Committee. We have met 2 times before to make recommendations about which grants should be issued for Panvala's Token Grant program. This is the third batch and the last batch before we actually launch the live system. We're launching the live system on the mainnet in August. So the fourth batch won't be a meeting like this where a group that's been appointed by us is making a recommendation. It'll be any token holder who wants to make a recommendation making that recommendation. We're going to simulate that in this third batch. So the Panvala Awards Committee is going to make their recommendation. We're going to record it on the Rinkeby testnet. But then next week, we're going to start asking the public to make their own recommendations. If they're not satisfied with what the Panvala Awards Committee has recommended, they'll be able to make their own. And then we'll issue test tokens to the public so they can vote on which slate that they prefer in July. If you're interested in what's happened in the past meetings, those videos are available on YouTube. But for this one, we're just going to kick it off and let the Panvala Awards Committee make their recommendation. So I'll hand it over to you guys.
So I'll start. I guess the first thing we need to decide is whether we're going to keep the constraint that we've had on previous batches, which has the very nice byproduct of making it easy for us, which is to not modify anyone's token slate application proposals. In the past, I argued against having that constraint, but other people disagree with me. Now I'm going to argue for having that constraint, which is that it makes it easy for us. It sort of has some interesting game theory as well, although maybe not so now that this is the last one that's being done this way. But also, I'm not sure I'm super excited to have to try to litigate every single amount, because that's hard and, I don't know, could have some hurt feelings as well. Yeah, I guess I'm curious as to what other people think about having this constraint.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I like it in the long run because I like the game theory of it. But I think, Aaron, you were telling us that, or in these early stages that you've kind of been, guiding the point estimates. So I think it makes it a little trickier. I think in the long run, it's definitely something we want to keep because it prevents teams from overestimating and knowing they're probably going to be included anyways. But for now, given that maybe that game theory isn't necessarily in place yet because it's still early and teams are trying to figure out their estimates and you're kind of helping them. I could go either way. To be honest, in this round, I could probably we could proportionally lower each team and fit it in. But I do think in the long run, it's something worth preserving.
So just to reiterate, when the applications come in, I basically set a recommended token request for each grant. And for the past batches, I've been sending that back to the team to let them say whether they're comfortable with that request or whether they'd like to modify it. The problem is that since these tokens aren't transferable yet, nobody knows what to do with these amounts, so they just all accept what I say. So for this third batch, I've just assigned the token amounts and haven't even really bothered getting people to say, I am happy with that amount. So what would happen after this meeting is any amount that the Panvala Awards Committee agrees to issue, I would send that to them and ask them if they're comfortable with that, and they would be comfortable with it because they don't know how much it's worth. In the future, when the tokens are actually transferable, they'll have a rational basis for deciding how many tokens to request because they can figure out how many dollars or ether they might be able to get from the tokens that they're receiving in the grant.
Gotcha. I guess I didn't really answer your question, Evan, but yeah, I think in this round I could go either way. I guess the other thing we have to consider is we have a late application from White Block. So, do we want to stick to deadlines there? I'm personally a fan of the White Block team, so I think they're definitely worthy of a grant, but, I guess open for debate there.
Yeah, I lean towards just no late applications. I mean, I don't know. Deadlines to me are deadlines for a reason, unless you're also again going to tell me that like there wasn't really a deadline and late doesn't really mean late. I don't know.
So as
uh,
far as the deadline goes, like we did clearly announce the deadline to the public. The problem is that, like, again, since it's fake money that we made up, there haven't been that many people paying attention from the beginning. So people kind of get their applications in as they figure out that Panvala even exists, and that's more or less what happened with this particular circumstance. So I am pro deadlines, and in the next batch, the smart contract is going to enforce deadlines pretty strictly. So like there is an argument to be made for getting used to strict deadlines, but it's really up to you guys for this one. I like white black too.
were they anywhere close to the deadline? No, right?
Nowhere close to the deadline.
Which is not, maybe it's not their fault because not aware of it, but still, like I don't know. Um,
Yeah, I think I would have a tough time throwing another team out. I think, I guess personal opinion is we should stick to the deadlines. It kind of keeps some type of order to the process, right? The second you start slipping there, it goes down a little bit.
Cool.
yeah, I
And
lean towards keeping the deadlines too. So I guess let's tentatively keep the deadline, Eric.
Yeah, agreed.
We have a
and
majority.
and to make it a little more comfortable, like there are batches of grants issued every quarter. This
Yeah.
application will make it into the next batch. So it's not the end of the world. It's just that they won't have tokens on day one.
Yep. So now I guess we have the issue that we have a 256,000 token difference. So the question is, do we want to take a team or two out, or do we want to just proportionally lower their requested amounts for this round?
I mean, personally, I would take Regen out. I mean, they're not on Ethereum. They're a Cosmos project. I just don't really see any reason why we would give a Cosmos project tokens. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And like, yeah, I mean, you could argue they only asked. Well, okay, they didn't really ask for anything. Neuron, never mind. I was gonna say, like, compare that to like runtime verification and KWASM is a lot more important. But I don't know. I personally would just, I like, given that we're over, that seems like an easy decision to make.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think I can really disagree. I mean, in their white paper, I don't think there's a single reference to Ethereum. It's all Cosmos. So I know they changed their proposal and they threw the EVM in there a couple times. And maybe this is just me misunderstanding the project potentially, but I mean, to me, I checked out the white paper before this, and it's still all Cosmos based. So I would have to agree with Evan.
So let's vote to eliminate them. That gets us down to 2 million. If we're also enforcing deadlines, I guess the question is like, do we want to? What should we do from there? I mean, I think we can make it really easy by just not giving ourselves tokens or just reducing our amount to whatever is left over, which I think would be 43,000.
Yeah. So you're saying just tweak down the committee tokens a little bit just to hit the amount on the head?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. We should take it out of the committee, if anything, and just I think that makes sense early on.
So the amount that achieves that is 43,899 tokens for the Panvala Awards Committee's grant for this batch.
Yep. Sounds like we have some consensus.
All right, ready to finalize this recommendation?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, yeah, I'm happy with it.
All right, so with that, I'll consider it a finalized recommendation. After this, we'll do the work to record this recommendation onto the RankB testnet and the Panvala application. And then next week, there'll be additional slates competing against this slate. So if there's people out there that really love Regen Network, that doesn't mean that it's the end of the world because it didn't make it into this. Or if you really want White Block to make it in, even though it was a late application, you can create your own slate that includes those applications and makes different sacrifices than the awards committee did. So we'll announce that next week, and then you'll be able to get started. Later in July, we'll issue test tokens so you can actually vote between those slates, and we'll decide who gets the actual tokens from the votes that you make. In August, we'll actually start operating Panvala on the Ethereum mainnet. The tokens are going to be transferable, and any token holder will be able to stake tokens on slates they'd like to recommend instead of just us as the Panvala team that has all the test tokens right now, and we can decide whatever we want. When it's live on the mainnet, you'll be able to decide.